It feels wonderful to be free. Nobody has shut me out. Nobody has looked at me differently. Everybody's been very supportive and very loving, and I think that makes a difference, you know. I live a really busy life between school and work and raising children. I have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 15-year-old. I like to think that I'm a pretty awesome mom. When I was 13 or 14, I was living in Reno with my aunt. I had ran away with somebody. I was downtown one weekend. I was downtown at Circus and watching a trapeze act. There's a woman in the center. There's other things going on, but I was focused on the woman in the center. And a man came up to me and he said, "How are you liking the show?" You know, he asked me that night, "Why are you down here by yourself? You know, you're a child. Why are you down here downtown by yourself?" It was probably 10 or 11 o'clock at night. We started talking on the phone every day, and I would see him maybe a few times a week. It was like a friendship, you know. He never approached me in a sexual manner. He never said anything even leaning towards that. It felt good to me to have somebody concerned about my well-being, you know, a man growing up, you know, without a father and always wanting that type of relationship, wanting to be cared for by a father figure. And I called him and he told me that he was getting ready to leave back to Oakland, because he had said he was from Oakland. He was getting ready to go back, and I was heartbroken. He knew that he wouldn't have to ask me to come, that I would volunteer myself because of my lifestyle growing up, because I didn't have a father, because all of the men in my life, pretty much 97% of the men in my life up until the point where I met Sir, had violated me in some way, shape, or form, including my father. And so I asked him, "Can I come with you?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, you can come. I'll come get you. Just bring your stuff with you to school and I'll pick you up at lunchtime." We went to his mother's house, and the two women that he had with him in the car when he picked me up, began to prep me for what was to come. They got me clothes. They made sure that I fit everything, made sure I had shoes. The older girl, she kind of walked me through how it would go, what I was supposed to do with the money, when I was supposed to get the money, how much I was supposed to charge, and what to expect, and told me that I should have a lot of alcohol in me, that it may be hard, but that it would get easier, and I did that. Honestly, I can't say that I had an idea of what to expect, but I did not expect that. That was the furthest thing from my mind. That was out of the movies, you know, that was something that other people did. I was a child. He would beat the other two constantly, all the time, but and I think that he knew that that was enough, you know, that their being punished was enough for me to do what was necessary, so that I didn't have to go through that, so that I didn't have to deal with that. I was terrified. I didn't want to be beat. I didn't want to have a swollen face. I didn't want teeth knocked out. I didn't want that. Half of me wanted to run. Half of me wanted to call my mother immediately. And then the other half of me wanted to be obedient. I was a child. I wanted him to accept me, wanted him to love me. And so I was willing to do that. I was willing to do what was necessary to gain that. We were out there every day, you know. There was no days off. You didn't, you know, get time off. If you were sick, it didn't matter. You just did it. I had no breasts. I had no hips. I had no bottom. I was shaped like a boy, very stringy, very thin, very underdeveloped. It flabbergasts me that it was okay, you know, that the people who were coming to buy us, the Johns, if you will, that they knew that I was a child and it didn't matter, and probably made it even more exciting because they're a child and they get to live out, you know, whatever sick fantasies they have. That, you know, there was no denying that I was a kid. He said his name was John. He was this round white man, and he was fat and sloppy, and It was degrading, and I just wanted it to end. And then there was one guy who he was my regular, and he was Asian. And in my mind, I built him up to be like my boyfriend, and I would call him. I considered calling him a few times and asking him to please come get me and take me out of this. But he probably had a family and, a wife and maybe children of his own. But he would come regularly, and that was supposed to be my goal, was to get regular so that you didn't have to be out on the streets, so that you had somebody to provide you money on a regular basis. You could be out on the streets a little bit less, and I achieved that, so I was proud of that. And at the same time, my mind was so warped. He was like my boyfriend at the time. That's how I thought of him. And then there was these two white guys that looked like college kids that came, and there's a few others in between. I talked myself into calling my mother, and prayed that she would answer the phone and that she was willing to come get me. And I went downstairs. I told him I was going downstairs. I was hungry, and he was kind of distrusting of that, but at the same time, he let me go downstairs. And I went down to my mom's car, and where they were parked, he'd have to lean over to see. And he saw me leaving. He saw me after I got in the car leaving, but he didn't do anything. And I left with my mother and my sister. And when they came and picked me up, I told them that I had run away with a man, and that I didn't realize that he was a pimp. And once I realized that he was a pimp, I left, which wasn't true. But I didn't want them to think less of me. I didn't want to be. I was ashamed of what had taken place. I just wanted to be. I just wanted to feel the love of my family, and I didn't feel like that was possible with what had taken place. So I didn't say anything. And probably 6 months, maybe a year later, he went back to Reno looking for me, and showed up at my grandmother's motel where he had taken me to take the dog. And my uncle, who was recently released from prison, threatened him and told him, "Don't ever come back here. If you come back here, I'll kill you." And I haven't heard anything from him since. So from that point of my life until I was 24, I was very heavily addicted to methamphetamines. So not only was I pushing it down on my own, but then I had, an addiction that allowed me to be numb to a lot of things. And then when I got into recovery at 24, I think that I had suppressed it for so long, and coming out and going into a rehab and working steps and trying to get myself back, there were so many other issues that had built up on top of that those were the ones that I was dealing with. Those were, I was scratching the surface. For me, I guess nothing was as shameful, nothing was as degrading and disrespectful to myself in my mind. I was at church, and a lady came on stage and was talking about Love Never Fails and the CASE Act and everything that's being done right now, and was talking about girls that are being rescued, and I found myself moved to tears, like uncontrollable tears, and it brought up a flood of feelings. I couldn't stop crying, and I had heard about the program, Love Never Fails, prior to that day in church, and I knew that I wanted to get involved, but it was at that point that I realized that it wasn't something that I just wanted to get involved in, but that I needed to be involved in, that I needed to start healing, that I needed to face my past and in order to move on, because I had no idea that I had all of these emotions inside of me at the time until it happened, till they overflowed. I didn't know that they were still there. I thought that I had buried them. I told my best friend, and she was very supportive and loving, and it broke her heart to know that I had experienced that. I have a boyfriend, and we're on a path to be married, and I don't think that you should have any secrets. He knows that I was an addict. He knows that I, all of the other things that I did. But this is the one thing that he didn't know about. He was very supportive and loving, and as he always is. And I think that him supporting me gave me the strength to believe in myself, gave me the idea that I am worth more than that, and that I have so much more to offer than just my body. There's a battle. Probably on a daily basis there's a battle, because nobody wants to be degraded, nobody wants to be disrespected, nobody wants to be worth that little, you know, and they're not. I'm an accomplished, smart, intelligent, beautiful woman, you know, and I would hope that hearing my story would allow somebody else to know the same thing about themselves, or to be the same thing. I support the CASE Act because it will hold sexual traffickers accountable for their actions. I think that sexual trafficking is a crime against humanity. It needs to be noted, it needs to be noticed, we need to take a stand against that.